What happens when a single warning carries the weight of war? What happens when one sentence redraws the red lines of global power? On Sunday, Iran delivered a message that echoed far beyond the Middle East. A message not of diplomacy, but of confrontation. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian issued a chilling warning to the United States, declaring that any attack on Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei would be considered a declaration of all-out war against the Iranian nation. It was not a metaphor. It was not rhetoric. It was a line drawn in unmistakable terms. The statement came after U.S. President Donald Trump suggested that it might be time for new leadership in Iran, a remark that immediately escalated tensions between Washington and Tehran. Within hours, the response from Iran was swift, direct, and uncompromising. Posting on social media platform X, Pezeshkian wrote, "Any attack on our great leader will be tantamount to an all-out war against the Iranian nation." Those words instantly triggered alarms across diplomatic circles. Because when leaders stop speaking in conditions and start speaking in absolutes, history tells us one thing: conflict moves closer. Iran's leadership framed Trump's comments not as political criticism, but as a direct threat to Iran's sovereignty. According to Tehran, the Supreme Leader is not merely a political figure. He is a symbol of national unity, religious authority, and resistance against foreign domination. Targeting him, Iran argues, is equivalent to targeting the Iranian state itself. But the warning did not stop there. Pezeshkian went further, accusing the United States of systematically destabilizing Iran through decades of hostility, economic pressure, and what he called inhumane sanctions. He blamed Washington and its allies for Iran's economic suffering, claiming the hardships faced by ordinary Iranians are the direct result of foreign aggression. According to the Iranian president, sanctions are not tools of diplomacy. They are weapons. Weapons aimed not at governments, but at civilians. He accused the U.S. president of responsibility for bloodshed, destruction, and slander against the Iranian nation, labeling recent unrest as an American-engineered sedition designed to weaken Iran from within. The word sedition carries deep historical weight in Iran. It implies not spontaneous protest, but foreign-backed subversion. And by using it, Iranian officials sent a clear message. They believe this confrontation is not accidental. It is deliberate, as tensions mounted. Iranian state media amplified the message, framing the standoff as part of a broader struggle between resistance and domination. Officials emphasize that Iran does not seek war, but will not retreat under threat. The timing of the warning was no coincidence. Iran has faced waves of unrest, triggered by economic hardship, rising prices, and unemployment. What began as economic protests quickly escalated into political demands, challenging the clerical system itself. Tehran insists these protests were hijacked by foreign actors seeking regime change, and at the center of Iran's accusations stood the United States. As the rhetoric intensified, global observers warned that the language on both sides was growing dangerously rigid. When leaders publicly threaten consequences without room for compromise, diplomacy becomes fragile, and miscalculation becomes deadly. This was no longer just about sanctions, no longer just about protests. This was about power, pride, and survival. And as the world absorbed Iran's warning, one question dominated global headlines. Is this the moment when words turn into war? Iran says this is not a crisis. It is a campaign, not unrest, but orchestration, not coincidence, but design. Following President Pezeshkian's warning, Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei delivered one of his strongest accusations, yet against the United States, directly blaming Washington for weeks of unrest that left thousands dead and entire cities scarred. According to Iranian officials, what unfolded inside Iran was not a popular uprising. but a foreign-backed operation designed to cripple the state from within. Khamenei accused the US and Israel of planning, funding, and directing the unrest, claiming that trained agents exploited economic grievances to push Iran toward chaos. Iranian authorities released a staggering list of alleged damages: mosques burned, educational and scientific centers destroyed, banks attacked, power infrastructure sabotaged, medical facilities, targeted food supply stores looted. The leadership claims that more than 250 mosques and hundreds of public institutions were damaged or destroyed. According to Tehran, thousands were killed, some, they say, in brutal and inhumane ways, in a fiery address. Khamenei stated that domestic criminals would be punished, but warned that international criminals were far worse and would not escape accountability. Iran's narrative is clear. This was not dissent, it was warfare by other means. Officials pointed directly at President Trump, accusing him of publicly encouraging protesters, threatening Iran, and even promising support. According to Tehran, this marked a dangerous shift. The US president himself, they say, became part of the conflict. Iran claims to possess documents proving American and Israeli involvement, insisting that the ultimate goal was not reform, but regime collapse. Yet despite the fury, Iran's leadership made one point repeatedly: we are not leading the country to war. But this restraint came with a warning. Iran insists it will respond in its own way. And, at the right time, the message was layered. Iran does not seek open conflict, but it refuses humiliation. It will absorb pressure, but not endlessly. And it will not forgive what it sees as deliberate attempts to swallow Iran. This framing transforms sanctions from policy into provocation, and protests from internal unrest into an act of aggression. To Iran, this is not a regional dispute. It is an existential struggle. As the accusations mounted, the space for compromise narrowed. Each statement hardened positions. Each speech deepened distrust. And while Iran spoke of patience, the anger beneath the surface was unmistakable. Because when a nation believes it is under siege, economically, politically, and psychologically, peace becomes fragile, and retaliation becomes inevitable. One day, threats of war; the next, words of thanks. In geopolitics, unpredictability can be more dangerous than aggression. As Iran's warnings dominated headlines, President Donald Trump struck a surprisingly different tone. Speaking to reporters, he thanked Iran for canceling what he claimed were planned mass executions of political prisoners. Trump said Iran had called off the hanging of more than 800 people, adding that he greatly respected the decision. He later posted a public thank you note, claiming the executions would not take place. The shift stunned observers. Just days earlier, Trump had warned that the United States was considering military action if Iran continued killing protesters. He spoke openly about strong options and refused to rule out force when pressed by reporters for details. Trump dismissed questions, mocked journalists, and clashed openly with the media, particularly CNN, accusing them of spreading fake news. Behind the confrontations, the message was unmistakable. If Iran strikes U.S. interests, the response would be overwhelming. Trump warned that any attack on American or allied bases would be met with force, at levels they've never seen before. Yet even as the threats continued, Trump revealed something unexpected. Iran had called to negotiate. According to Trump, Iranian leaders reached out seeking talks. A meeting, he said, was being arranged, though military action remained. On the table, this dual approach, pressure and dialogue, created confusion and uncertainty. Was this de-escalation or a pause before confrontation? Trump claimed Iran was tired of being beaten up, suggesting sanctions and pressure had worked. Iran, meanwhile, framed negotiations not as surrender, but as strategy. The world now watches a familiar but dangerous pattern unfold. Threats mixed with talks, warnings mixed with outreach, hostility. Wrapped in diplomacy, history shows that moments like this are unstable. Misread signals, miscalculated moves, or symbolic gestures can spiral into irreversible outcomes. Iran says it will not start a war, but it will finish one. The U.S. says it prefers diplomacy, but keeps the military ready. Between these positions lies a narrow corridor, and it is shrinking. Because when leaders speak in absolutes, when red lines are drawn publicly, and when pride replaces patience, the margin for peace disappears. The question now is not whether tensions exist. The question is simple and terrifying. Who blinks first? Blinks first.